All right, now we got the winch in. We're gonna go for the compressor. I decided to go with the ARB dual compressor, just faster. It's full run time, so in other words, when you run it, and it's been running for up to 60 minutes, you don't have to shut it down and let it cool off. This thing will continue to run constant duty. I just thought it would be kind of nice if, you know, for whatever reason on the trail, somebody else's air system broke or they forgot or whatever, I can easily roll up right next to them, and after I'm done airing mine up, I can air them up. You know, kind of be nice to people. Anyways, so that's why I got the dual. The mounting bracket I went with, I decided to get the Grimm Offroad Mounting Bracket. I like the fact that it's designed to go up underneath the master cylinder, a spot where there really is just nothing there. You can't add anything there. There's nowhere to put anything. I didn't want to stick it under my seats because I might use that for storage, put a little bag under there or something like that. And you know, if people are sitting in the car trying to keep warm, they don't have to listen to the compressor. It's outside, it's in the engine area. So that's why I went with that. So anyways, we're gonna go get started on that. Again, Grimm's website has all the instructions you really need for this. Putting in my winch, found a couple of jinks in the instructions from Grimm. We ended up having to get some longer bolts for mounting the frame. You'll see that in the part video there. So anyways, let's get started. All right, so to get the fender off, to begin with, we got to remove 5 10mm nuts and 1 Christmas tree body clip. So 2 of those are kind of hidden a little bit, so we'll show you real quick. You got some obvious ones that are on the surface. 1, 2, and 3. The other 2 are hidden up inside the hole here, up inside this hole here, and another one up in front here. 2 little holes. So we're gonna get those. So we're gonna get those 5 off, and then remove this one. They call it Christmas tree clip. It's just one of those little plastic ones with little barbs on it. So we'll get that out, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now that we've got it broke free, everybody tells you you're going to break some tabs. I broke some tabs. I tried to do it with a body tool to keep it from happening, but so now we got a wiring harness to disconnect. There we are. You're going to pull that, take a screwdriver, pull that little red lever out. get in behind it. That will pop out like that. It should come out from there. Or not. Don't want to break this here, but stop it. All right, so after popping the red tab out, took a little wiggling, a little persuading the tap, and it finally popped out. We got the fender off. Now we need to start getting ready to mount the bracket. There is a wire junction right here. We're gonna have to loosen up the nuts on that to make room for the mounting brackets that are gonna come in. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. We'll get a closer look for you. All right, so we're going to take off the sensor bracket here. And this one here. Save both of those nuts. Okay, so they want you to recycle this little gray retaining strip, and I'm kind of sneaky. I like to reuse these, so just stick a zip, cut it off, and put a zip tie on it, try and save. And we use the old screwdriver in the jaws that works for it. Yeah, man. Going around with you. Yeah. Okay, well, we tried to save it. I can't kind of figure out how it actually works. Thought it worked on a normal zip tie, but can't get in there, so. Doesn't work like normal zip ties. Heck of Brutus. So we'll go ahead and trim the edge off of this one, and then we just run a new zip tie right through the hole. Use it as a holder instead. We're also cutting the one off of the fender right here so that we can get this up and out of the way of the bracket. Okay, now that we got the wire out of the way, we're going to install the ARB spacer that they give you. Notice there's a notch out in it. Pay attention to that. There's a extrusion in the body piece here. You want to line that up with it so that it sits in there nicely. Okay, time to mount the bracket on the compressor. So flip the compressor over, get your bracket ready. Bring your wires through this access hole here. There we go. We're pretty much lined up. Okay, you might have to bend these wires around just a little bit just to get them to line up correctly so their holes are lined up. While you've got this, then you're also going to install your heat shield. Get that lined up into this space here. And then we'll go ahead and grab some bolts and get this set. Okay, using the 4 sets of screws provided, make sure you put the lock nut and washer in the right orientation. You're going to attach your heat shield over the top of the plate and get all your screws in place and torque it down to 5 pounds. Next we'll be installing the male hose barbs. We have a male MPT on it and a hose barb here. These are going to get installed here. Make sure you put some Teflon tape on those before you install those. I always wondered how much Teflon tape you're supposed to put on these, you know, the 3 reps, 10 reps, 12 reps. I actually looked it up, and the use actually calls for, when you're using Teflon tape, just 3 reps. I'm going more than 3 reps because I'm covering one half, and I'm going reps to the other half. This is a little bit larger. Should be good there. And same with this. And notice the direction that I'm putting it on from this end here is the same direction when you go to thread it into the compressor. This way, the direction that you're turning into it will keep the Teflon tape from unwinding or backing up on you as you're screwing it in. This is the natural direction that it's going to turn in. That one started, get the other one started. And we'll crank on them with a wrench and get them in their final resting place. Okay, we grabbed our crescent wrench, cranked them around. I got them to go around 3 more times before they came to the rest in this spot, or almost 3 times, almost 3 whole revolutions before stopping in these 2 orientations. According to the manufacturer, these are the 2 orientations. Once you get it mounted up, I'm assuming so that's easily the way to mount the hoses coming up to the bracket that'll be mounted under the hood. So the next step is to install the other fitting on the front. We'll get on that. Okay, so this is the next fitting we're going to use with the flare fitting and the pipe fitting. Again, using Teflon. Sometimes you just got to give up and start over. I'll grab the other one. I'll pick that up later. Again. 3 wraps. 2, 3. Good couple of revolutions there. I think probably needed 1 or 2 more to get this snugged up properly. Yeah, I feel like I can get 1 more on it. And you want to stop right about there. All right, so one of the steps that we skipped, there is a bolt up here on the master cylinder. We're going to go ahead and take that one off before we mount the bracket on that. So we'll go ahead and get that off before we bring it in. All right, so now that we've got the bolt reinstalled for the master cylinder area, the tube that you took off for the solenoid and wiring harness, those have got to go back in. It's a very tight fit, so I'm not going to be able to give you a good camera angle on that, but trust me, it's not going to be fun. So I'll see you in a sec. All right, so the one mistake I made is there's no room to bend this bracket out to get the bolt in there. The bolt coming out is so close and so tight to the back of the pump that we're going to have to loosen up the 13mm nut on the master cylinder so we get just enough slack that we can move this thing around a little bit. So here we go. All right, so we got those all bolted in. On to the next step. We have the large one with the monster fuse on it. That's your main power. That's going to end up going from the compressor over to the battery, so we'll have to find a new route for that to take that. Then you've got this helter-skelter wire harness, and from what I understand, this one's going to get nixed. We'll double check that and move forward with that, and that gets replaced by this nice little simple one, which then goes to the switch. So we'll get those set up here in the next step and show you what we've done. Okay, so as you see, it's pretty dark. We're using light now. So again, that small wiring harness that we had, that's going to plug in to this small harness here. We'll get that plugged in and show you that here in a second. Oh, let's see if we can do this one-handed. There we go. That one there. That's going to come up the inside of the master cylinder area here, and that'll be for the power switch. There's a neat little bracket here. Hopefully we can maybe use that bracket to hold the wire. That'd be kind of cool. And then we have the main power one. Now I'm going to need both hands to plug that one in. That one's going to, again, come up next to the master cylinder along this space here. That'll then come out across the top, and that will then route down along the top here, across the firewall, and we'll connect that to the battery. And once again, we'll show you that once we get that all done. All right, so that was probably the easiest part out of everything so far. We got both wiring harnesses in, ran them up along the side there. Fortunately, there's a nice little clean wire harness coming up through here, so we zip tied all that to that gently. Again, I'm hoping that this will fit into this. That'd be a nice clean addition. Worst case scenario, I'll just zip tie it to the top. Ran the wire over the top there, connected it to the fluid bottle there, and across the top, tied it into those, and then we'll go ahead and hook up the power later in one of the next steps. So there we go, looking good so far. All right, so next we're going to install the air filter inlet hoses. Typically, the air filter inlets would screw into the top where these barbed connectors are, but because of where we've got it down underneath the rig here inside that lower area, we want to get it away from dust and debris, so they include these nice two hoses here. So we're going to go ahead and install those and run them up into this area here where the final mounting bracket and interface is going to be set up. So we'll get those installed and show you later. And one is shorter and longer than the other, so I assume that the long one's going to go to the far and the short one will go to the near, so they both come right up into the system. Okay, so the next step is to assemble this flange. You're going to use a little Teflon tape on this nut here, putting it on. Now, I did leave this nut just a little loose so that I can adjust the mounting angle on this so I can get it just right where I want it. These will crank on hand tight. You're going to want to kind of pinch it right here a little bit to get those just snugged up just ever so slightly. I think those are about the right angle that we're probably going to want for the hoses to go on. We'll figure that out here in a minute. But basically this is what it's going to want to look like when you're all set. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and install the bracket here with the air in filters and the air out fitting. And that's all going to install right here in this area. This bolt's going to come out here. We're going to use the 3 silver supplied nuts that came with the kit. And there's a washer as well that's going to go on here. And that's going to create a level area here for this bracket to bolt to. There's also a little plastic retaining clip that holds these 2 lines together. I removed that from the cloth area, slid it down a little bit further and reattached it just so there's enough room for this all to pass underneath and fit nice and clean. So let's go ahead and get that mounted and show you what that looks like. And there's our spacer washer. Hose is out of the way here. Good. And we'll go ahead and relocate that again. That's just not looking clean, so. That kind of holds it a little bit better. Okay, next we're going to be installing the switch on this. You notice that the switch has 2 terminals on one side, 3 on another, and if you look really closely, there should be an arrow there. You want to make sure that arrow is pointing up. That's the orientation, so the logo and everything is pointing upward. I use these here. Use these wires here. And I believe the order is black, red, purple. Confirm that just before we get it all on there, but just so that you can see 3 wires on the side where there's 3 terminals, not the 2 terminals. Before I do that, we're also going to want to pass the wires through the hole. Oops. Hey, we're human. While I was away for a second, just reconfirming that it is in fact, yeah, black, red, purple is the order. So let's go ahead and pop these off. We're going to pass those through the hole. Reinstall those wires again in the right order. Once again, black at the top, red in the middle, and purple at the bottom. Yeah, that's why we don't have the power hooked up yet. That's why we're doing this. We're kicking the switch on and off. And that's going to right in that space. Nice. And we'll clean up these wires here when we get to the end. Bring them over here and zip tie them in nice and tight. Okay, next we're going to hook up our high pressure hose. I'm going to start at the top here just because I think it's going to be easier to get it down in there and get it lined up. Afterwards, we'll see. I could be wrong. We'll see how it goes here. Turns out it's a little easier to bring it in from underneath. Okay, so these are flare fittings. There is no need to put any tape on those. So if you cinch them down nice and snug, the way it's designed, the male piece fits into the female piece and they actually seat onto each other as you tighten it up. So there's no reason to put any tape on it. I've seen people put tape on it and I just kind of shake my head and wonder why. So get those tightened up and we'll be good. Okay, get this one tightened up here and we're just about ready. Okay. And now that we got the angle of this, we can tighten up this nut as well. That way we know, since we know where that's going to be. We're going to open end wrench on that and tighten that up. Okay. Just tighten up before I forget. Alrighty. And we'll install our fitting of choice. ARB has a really neat one. This is a universal fitting. So like this, that way if somebody needs to use it and for whatever reason they're not using the standard M that pretty much everybody uses around here, whether they're using a T or whatever, this one will accept it. So kind of cool in that regard. I'm trying to be as ready as possible on the road. That sounds kind of corny, but just feels good to be ready for kind of anything. And ruby red to kind of stick with the Rubicon theme here. Anyways. Okay, at this point I'm also going to go ahead and hook up the air inlet hoses. They're quite long. I don't want to leave the slack pushed down everywhere inside. So we're just going to kind of give it a quick trim here. There we go, looking nice. All right, so day 2, finally got home. We're gonna have at it again. So we've got our wire run. We need to add our connectors. These do not come with it. This looks like it's a 10 gauge wire, so you're gonna need a connector for that. They refer to it as an M6 connector. I'm not sure what the translation is. I'll try and stick that in the notes here maybe. We'll give it a shot with our 10 gauge connector and see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna hook up the positive first. Okay, so we got a positive on there. Now for our negative. I'll shut off first. Okay, so we got our compressor all hooked up. Got our mounting bracket all hooked up. Got our battery all hooked up. Let's see how she goes. There we go. We're up to pressure. Check for leaks. You can hear the fan going. Looking good. All right, guys, so there you go. We got the Warn winch on there and the ARB dual compressor, both using Grimm mounting accessories. So I hope you guys got some tips and tricks out of it. I learned from some of the other videos, thought I'd incorporate those into it. But it's starting to get late. I'm getting hungry. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the part about putting the fender back on. If you guys have gotten this far, you probably know how to get it back on yourself. So have a good one. See you on the trail. Be safe. Hey guys, just one more thing as I was doing this. Thought I'd give you a little tip on it. These are the clips you're going to want to get. Once again, I'll include the part number in the description so you can find it. Give you the Mopar part number. That way it's easier to find. But you take a really good close look at this. I don't know if this will focus. You can see how it's got the little arrow tabs here. To get those out, the ones that you didn't break, even the ones you did break, you're going to want to get those to squeeze in so they can pop out. Easiest way I found to do that, just get a set of needle nose pliers or longer ones. You're just going to reach up right behind it, get as close to the fender as you can, give it a little squeeze as you pull on it, and just kind of pulse it like that until it pops out for you. And it comes right out nice and easy. All these were really easy except for the very bottom. There's two here. The one towards the rear, there's a lot of body stuff that's in the way and hard to get to it. So what I ended up using was a plastic fender puller and just fragged it off, and then using the needle nose to kind of work it out and finally get it out. couldn't really find another way to do it. So you're going to at least sacrifice one probably to get all this together, unless you have a way of sliding it back on, the way it goes back on the body. You'll see how they go on. Anyways, hope you guys have a really good time. Hope to see you on the trails. Take care.